You're leaving me for her? After everything? I whispered, my voice breaking. He just smirked. She's more fun. He walked away with her, laughing. Fast forward 10 years. He's now standing in front of my desk, begging for a job. The smirk is long gone. He doesn't recognize me. Oh. This is gonna be good. So a little backstory. My boyfriend of over a year had been working at this bar for about 5 months. I'd pop in sometimes to see him during his shift. But it was always so slammed that I never really got a formal introduction to his colleagues. I knew he was in a bunch of work group chats and had them all on Snapchat. Which was fine. They were his work friends. Whatever. Anyway. This one night, my dad and I decided to go visit him. We hung out at his bar until they closed up at midnight. The plan was simple. I told him, hey, text me when you're done with cleanup. And we'll come meet you. He figured he'd be finished around 12:30. Maybe a little later. Cool. So my dad and I headed off to kill some time at a couple of other bars down the street. 12:30 comes and goes. Then 100. By 1:30, my dad looks over at me and asks, so, where's this guy? That's when the first knot of anxiety started to twist in my stomach. I pulled out my phone and called him. Straight to voicemail. Okay. Maybe he's in a loud spot or his phone died. I called again. Voicemail. I left a message. Hey. Just wondering what's up. Give me a call. Hice una text. 2. Nothing. The screen just stared back at me. Blank. My mind started racing. It's not about being clingy. It's about the fact that we had a solid plan. A simple text, hey, running late, or change of plans would have taken 5 seconds. The silence was what felt weird. Finally, around 2 a.m., my phone buzzes. It's him. The text just says he's outside a club a few blocks away. No apology. No explanation. Just a location. My dad and I walk over. And I spot him immediately. He's standing on the sidewalk with 3 women. I'd never seen them before in my life. But I knew instantly they were from his work. I walked up, trying to keep my voice even. Hey, what happened? We had a plan to meet up. He barely made eye contact. He just kind of gestured vaguely toward the club. I forgot about it, he said. And I wanted to get my stamp. My brain just short-circuited for a second. Forgot. We made the plan less than 2 hours ago. And his reason was a club stamp. That's not a good enough excuse, I said. And I could hear the anger starting to creep into my voice. It wasn't fair for you to just blow me off without a word. I was waiting for you. He just looked at me. This blank expression on his face. Then he did this little shrug. Like my feelings were a piece of lint he was brushing off his shoulder. Without another word. He turned around and walked straight back into the club. Disappearing into the crowd. I was left standing there on the sidewalk. Totally stunned. He didn't just break our plans. He dismissed my right to even be upset about it. He literally walked away from me mid-sentence. At that point, I'm raging. But I'm also just confused. What was going on in there that was so important he'd treat me like that? I looked at my dad, who just had this grim look on his face. And I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to go in and see for myself what was happening. Was I overreacting here? I turned to my dad, my hands shaking slightly. I need to go in there. I just need to understand what's going on. To his credit, my dad, bless his hammered soul, just nodded and said, all right, I'm with you. The inside of the club was exactly what you'd expect, a chaotic mess of flashing lights, sweaty bodies, and music so loud it vibrated in your chest. It took a minute for my eyes to adjust. I scanned the room, my heart pounding against my ribs, looking for him in the crowd. And then I saw him. He was on the dance floor, surrounded by the 3 women from outside. And he had his hands resting on the hips of one of them as they danced. It wasn't frantic or wild. It was casual, comfortable, too comfortable. My brain couldn't process it for a second. This was the man who forgot we had plans. This was the reason he couldn't send a single text. I pushed through the crowd, my dad trailing behind me. I walked right up to him. I didn't shout, but my voice was sharp. What the fuck is going on? He turned, saw me, and his face barely registered any surprise. For the second time in less than 30 minutes. He just shrugged. That same dismissive, indifferent gesture. But this time was worse. This time it was in front of his friends. It was a public statement that my presence, my anger, my feelings, none of it mattered. He then turned back to the woman. Before I could even react to that, the woman had been dancing with spun around and got right in my face. I mean, inches away. Who the hell do you think you are? She started screaming, pointing her finger at my chest. You need to leave him alone. I was so taken aback I just said, you need to back off. But she kept going, shouting and yelling, causing a scene. I looked at my partner, expecting him to step in, to defend me, to tell her to stop. He did step in. He put his hands on her shoulders, pulled her back gently, and started walking away with her, murmuring something I couldn't hear. He didn't pull her away to protect me. He pulled her away to calm her down. He was siding with her. In that moment, I realized he had made his choice. And it wasn't me. My dad grabbed my arm and said, "Come on. Let's go. He's not worth it." I let him lead me out, my entire body buzzing with a mixture of rage and humiliation. I decided the priority was getting my dad home safely. As we walked down the street, I saw them all come out of the club. My partner came over and we started arguing again. But I cut it short. I have to get my dad home. While this was happening, my dad, in his drunken state, had wandered off on his own. So thankfully he was heading in the right direction. After I called my dad to make sure he'd made it inside, I turned back around, and my partner was gone. He and the women were walking into a casino across the street. Had left me on the sidewalk. Again, I don't know why, but I followed them. It was pure desperation at that point. A pathetic need for some kind of resolution. Inside, the same woman got in my face a second time, screaming all sorts of abusive names at me. It was so bad that a mutual friend of ours who happened to be there pulled my partner aside and told him how disrespectful his behavior was. And what did my partner do? He walked away from our friend and right back over to her, once again choosing the woman who was verbally attacking me. That was the final straw. I couldn't take any more humiliation. I turned around and walked out. Am I wrong to think a partner's job is to have your back? Especially against someone who is screaming in your face. He just watched it happen and then walked away with her. Twice. It was only when he saw the back of my head as I walked out of the casino, actually leaving for good, that something seemed to click in his brain. Suddenly, he was running to catch up with me, trying to grab my arm. Wait. Where are you going? Don't leave like this. The sudden concern was so jarring it was almost laughable. Had spent the entire night treating me like I was invisible. But now that I was walking away, he wanted to talk. To be honest, the rest of the night is a blur of hurt and anger. We went home. And we argued. It wasn't a conversation. It was me, crying and trying to explain how deeply he had hurt and humiliated me. And him, offering up empty defenses. He said I was overreacting. That they were just his work friends. That she was drunk and didn't mean it. He never once acknowledged the core issue that he repeatedly chose them. And specifically her, over me. The next morning, I woke up feeling hollowed out. The argument had solved nothing. And he was sleeping like nothing had even happened. I was lying there when his phone, on the nightstand beside me, lit up. A message popped onto the screen. It was from her. Hey. You okay? My whole body went cold. My first thought was just pure rage. But then a different thought cut through it. I had to know. My hands were shaking, but I picked up the phone and opened their message thread. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scrolled up, past their conversation from last night. And there it was. Weeks of messages. Most were casual, but sprinkled throughout. At the end of her messages and his, were little excess kisses. It felt like the floor just dropped out from under me. This wasn't a one-off drunken night. This was a pattern. This was an ongoing, familiar, flirty dynamic that I had been completely excluded from. All the pieces clicked into place, the Snapchatting, the group chats, the easy way he put his hands on her hips. This wasn't just a colleague. This was something more. When he finally got up, I didn't yell. I just held out the phone. Explain this, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. He looked at the screen and had the nerve to look annoyed. It's nothing, he said, taking the phone back. It's just how we text. Everyone does it. It doesn't mean anything. And that was it. That was the moment I knew I would never get the truth. or an apology. He had a mountain of evidence in front of him: the ghosting, the public humiliation, siding with another woman as she screamed at me. And now this. A secret, flirty message history, and his response was to tell me it was all in my head, that it meant nothing. To this day, years later, he maintains that he did absolutely nothing wrong that night. He genuinely seems to believe it. But it's a wound that has never fully healed for me. Every time I think about it, I'm back on that sidewalk, watching him walk away from me. It cemented this awful feeling deep inside me that when it comes down to it, I'm just a second best. That his friends, his fun, his ego will always come before me. So, Reddit, what are your thoughts? Am I crazy for still being hurt by this? Or did he cross a line that night that he refuses to ever admit?